It is, yeah. We are in the process of, or we were starting the process of reissuance of the Trans-Colorado Pipeline road use permit, and the question came up about, this road really is, well, I mean, if you want me to wait, I can wait, but, is really a public road. It seems counterintuitive, but the Forest Service is not a public road agency. We only maintain roads for what we need as far as access for operations of the forest and stuff like that. And when it goes beyond that, technically we're supposed to be working with our public road agencies, which is normally the county, to see if they're willing to enter into a Forest Road and Trails Easement Act conveyance, basically, of the jurisdiction for the road. We've had this discussion with the commission, prior, but it was a completely different commission. So I thought, well, we have a completely different commission who may have a different perspective on things, and I was gonna, bring that up and see if you guys have any interest in that at all. That way we can proceed. That way, instead of going through the Trans-Colorado road use permit issuance, because basically that entails, there again, a permit for them and fees, and anybody that utilizes that road for commercial purposes, has to get their own permit and associated fees charged for that. But when the county takes it over, then it just becomes another public road, and then it's up to the county on how they want to manage it. If they decide they would prefer, to have permitting, process associated with it, well, then you can make that decision. But otherwise, it would just be managed, like any other county road. It does open up a lot more funding opportunities when the county does have jurisdiction of the road that the feds aren't, able to apply for.
Derek, can I interrupt you for 1 second? I think we got the IT stuff working. I'm wondering if we ought to go live and have this discussion.
Are we good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Have you
well,
started yet? These aren't coming up.
No, I don't have anything up, that's what I'm sorry.
You have to reboot the system.
Oh,
You can start at any time, I'm just waiting for you.
Yeah, go ahead and start. We'll work on this. You guys can have the discussion while we work on the document.
Can people hear us, or,
Yeah, they can hear you.
okay.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
yeah, so basically, that's the purpose of my visit this afternoon, is just to see, whether or not the county would be interested. Just to give a little bit of history, the county did assert that the Dolores Norwood Road, qualified under revised statute RS 2477. But there's about a 2.5 mile section. If you look at the map I gave you there, what's in green there, the yellow was what the original alignment was, and then the pink is what the current alignment was, or is. And the pink alignment, came into play well beyond 1905 when the Forest Service was established. So based on that, that section is not eligible for RS 2477. We could go through the process of adjudicating the rest of the road under RS 2477, but that would be the responsibility of the county to take it to court and basically to do a quiet title litigation to get that under RS 2477. So again, the county in the past has, said that, we feel that that's our jurisdiction, and therefore that it's self-enacting and we don't need to do anything. But that's unfortunately not the way, the case law on RS 247 has been implemented, over time. It's been, there again, the public road agencies' responsibility to assert that, and then it be adjudicated in a common court of jurisdiction in the area. But what we do have available to us is the FRTA easement, and that allows the Forest Service to transfer jurisdiction of a route over to a public road agency, for the purposes of providing a public road. The county was opposed to that because as part of the act that authorizes that, it does give the chief of the Forest Service the ability to cancel the easement, you know, if something were not right, you know. Normally, that's done, you know, mutually by the two different entities because the road is abandoned for some reason. That's the only case that in all my discussions with our Office of General Counsel have said that we've ever, as an agency, canceled a FRTA easement. Is it when it was mutually agreed upon between the Forest Service and the Public Road Agency. We've never, you know, just done it, basically. And if we did do it, then we'd have to go through the condemnation process, which there again is a process that's very procedural in manner, and it's not, you know, the chief can't just call me up tomorrow and say, you know, we're canceling this easement. There has to be, you know, a due process provided to the Public Road Agency before we could cancel that easement. So at any rate, like I said, the previous commission, you know, we came really close to coming to agreement, and that was their, you know, last stance was that if that clause stays in there, you know, we're not going to accept this. And we weren't able to take that clause out because it's part of the law that authorizes us to convey jurisdiction of the road. So then we looked for another avenue, and we do have a process provided to us called a non-binding determination process, which is basically says that, you know, all the research we've done indicates that this road probably does predate the United States Forest Service, and we're agreeing that that the Public Road Agency, you know, has jurisdiction. But then this is when we found out about this discrepancy here, and basically there was an agreement on the agency side to enter into a non-binding agreement for sections of road. It needs to be all or none. So then that brought that to closure, and we weren't able to utilize that process either. So basically, I'm just you know, back again, seeing if you know, we have a new commission now for the most part. If there's any, you know, difference in perspective on you know, moving forward with a FRTA easement. That's a process that, you know, we've engaged with Dolores County on their section of the road. They've had it since 2014 or 16, one of those two. And then we've also done it elsewhere where there was concern about RS 2477, and I've given you an example of a FRTA easement we issued to Uray County, where that was a concern of theirs, except it was under a different act. I'm not sure why that route was different, but we can put a clause in basically saying that, you know, the county's acceptance, and that's on page 2 of that easement, and highlighted in yellow, but basically saying that, you know, acceptance of this FRTA easement, you know, does not waive the county's assertion of a RS 247 well, assertion that you know, if down the road the county decided, you know, that we have the evidence that shows that this is RS 2477, that could be pursued still, and acceptance of the FRTA easement wouldn't in any way affect that assertion. So that's something, you know, we've already done. That's something that we talked about doing when we were going through the FRTA easement process discussions here with the previous commissions, that we will put that language in there should the county desire that, if they're willing to accept the FRTA easement.
Okay, Ian, I mean,
Yeah, so just at the forefront, Derek, I guess and I see Jim's here too. Do we know when this realignment took place?
That was in the 1940s, is when the realignment took place.
How much distance are we talking about between the original alignment and the new
miles?
alignment?
Well, from the old alignment, well, as you see, it deviates
Yep.
there. Each one of those boxes is a square mile, so
Okay.
it's about a half mile.
Okay. So commissioners, I'm not super familiar with the FRTA easements. I need to do some research on that and look into that further.
Okay.
To really give you guys a full rundown of what the advantages and disadvantages of that might be. So I'm not prepared to,
Sure.
to get
Well,
into that today.
We're not gonna make any decisions today anyway. I think this is just more of a question and answer, period. So, I guess in a nutshell,
Do you have
what,
any kind of a time limit on this?
As far as when we need to make a decision,
Correct.
we would like a decision by the end of July, just because, if the county doesn't, wish to, enter into a FRTA easement with the agency, then we have to move forward with, issuing a road use permit to the Trans-Colorado folks, and, we just need that time to get that all in place and finalized before their current, authorization expires.
And James, do you have an opinion one way or the other?
Well,
You'd need to speak into the mic.
yeah, I really don't, I guess. We've been after this for a long time. I think, for the short term, the FRTA doesn't seem like it's gonna cause us any problems. We still have the RS-247 we can pursue. It's been difficult up to this point, so, FRTA might be one way to alleviate our situation, in the short term.
Just throwing something out, could we do this with congressional declaration?
I don't see why not. I mean, when Congress, passes something.
Right,
you
but
know,
I mean, I think they're in recess now, or close to it, so they might not be around to meet your deadline, but
Congressman Tipton's, office was, highly involved when we were going through this, the first time around. And, they just didn't seem, they said either the easement or the county moving forward with, the actual, quiet title litigation, was the way to go.
okay.
Why, I don't know. It just, I've never heard of a road being legislatively
Yeah.
conveyed to a county. 'Cause then, yeah, I've not heard of that.
and I haven't either, but.
Just fishing,
Yeah, so I drove down that road this morning at 5:30. So my question is, obviously, we have a ton of traffic that goes up and down that road for everything in our agricultural community. So the maintenance then, where does the maintenance go if it's then shifted to the county, right? Through this FRTA? So then it becomes our management and our responsibility for maintenance?
Correct, but
100%?
you're already doing that.
Correct, but then we have total control of it. Is that what you're saying? Through this agreement?
Correct, is, within the constraints of what the current use of the road
Right.
is. I mean, you couldn't authorize like a electrical system, through it or anything like that. It would just be for road use.
Correct, just as it is today?
Correct.
Nothing out of the ordinary, or
Correct.
nothing special?
Or, I mean, if you were gonna do something, like if you wanted to expand it to 4 lanes, for some reason, then, there has been, litigation within, the 10th Circuit, which covers us, that says that the Public Road Agency must consult, and coordinate with, the subordinate, landowner, or subservient landowner, which would be us.
The Forest Service?
Yeah, but if everything else is the same, I mean, yes, you would have, total control over that. And like I said, my concern was, and my question to, our roads engineers were, well, what does that do from a funding standpoint? Will it then make the county, not eligible, for certain dollars that are sometimes available to us? And the answer was no. That actually expands, opportunities for funding, and they gave me the example that over in Archuleta County, that they were able to get a Tiger grant, and you have to forgive me for, I don't remember what it stands for.
Through
you know,
CDOT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To pave about 9 miles of road that, you know, goes right through the middle of forest, that had it been in our jurisdiction, that we can't compete for those dollars. And that the dollars that we can compete for are usually a lot smaller bucket compared to what counties and municipalities can compete for.
Because that's my concern right now is the condition of that road. I mean, Saturday I wasn't paying much attention, but this morning coming down, I was like,
Mhm.
I mean, I thought I was drunk driving over that road just to try and keep my tires out of the potholes. It needs to be repaired, but you're saying through CDOT, through state dollars, basically that we should have more funding opportunity than you would through the Forest Service, through the federal funds that you guys have.
Correct. Yeah, the last round of funding from the federal highways grant cycle, actually Southwest Colorado as a whole struck out. We didn't get any funding at all. Yeah, and we don't see that that's gonna get any better. Just in speaking, you know, with our road engineers folks, you know, the places that have the population, you know, Denver and those areas seem to be the ones that get the federal funding, whereas with the state, the rural communities, you know, are able to be successful in obtaining dollars in a much more successful way than the federal side.
So the whole road except for this little section right here would be available, so basically 15 miles?
I think the federal, cause
Yeah, but
from.
if you do what he's wanting to do, that doesn't matter.
Right. It would be
doesn't matter,
included.
that little section.
Yeah, so from 145 to the forest boundary, well, from 145, I think, to the top of the hill
Butler
there.
Corner?
Yeah,
Yep.
well, not that far, just to the top of the hill as you're coming out of Dolores, I think,
Mhm.
is Dolores, the town of Dolores jurisdiction.
Yep.
And then from there to Butler Corner is your jurisdiction.
Yep.
And then there's about 7 miles that is Forest Service jurisdiction. And then Dolores County has jurisdiction from there to the San Miguel county line. So it's just the piece that's under Forest Service jurisdiction still that we would be looking to convey jurisdiction over to Montezuma County.
So from basically Dolores County, Montezuma, Dolores County, where we just chip sealed
Correct, to Butler Corner.
back to Butler Corner. Okay, I'm with you.
Too bad we didn't surface that road way back when the funds were available.
Well,
That was
We-
gonna be my question is, do we have if we are to take over the control of this easement, do we have the ongoing funding to maintain it?
I think that's what Derek is saying, is that we have a better
We have more access
opportunity
to it.
to the
Right.
funding, but do we have it right now? I think the answer would be clearly no.
Well, that's the other thing though, is that section of road is on the Schedule A agreement, so you guys are already maintaining it, you know, and maintaining it. So, I don't think there's gonna be an increased cost. You guys are already doing it, you know, with the funding that you get from the Schedule A agreement, you know, for doing that. And that doesn't come from, if I'm understanding that correctly, that doesn't necessarily come from the agency. So,
Would that Schedule A funding still be there if we went to FRTA?
that's a good question. That I don't know. I would need to find that out.
Okay.
But I think the answer is no, just because Schedule A funding only goes towards roads that are under the agency's jurisdiction. But I'll confirm that.
Okay.
Well, I just know that it's getting worse on an annual basis, and, I mean, there's,
Well, given
How many,
impacts, you know, everybody came to the forest when COVID was around, it's still around, so they're recreating a lot more up in that area. And it really does a lot of damage to that road.
well, it's not just that, it's everything else, but you
Yeah.
have permits, you have, I mean, I know we purchase permits.
how many permits do you think you issue every year on that, commercial permits?
Commercial permits, we actually only have two that return receipts back to the agency. Most everything else, you know, the ones that you get are, because it's very infrequent and
Yeah,
and
it's-
small type of loads, we just do a letter of authorization, and that doesn't require any payments.
Gotcha.
But some of the private land logging that's occurring up there, which has actually been reduced by quite a bit, we had one, but that one will probably be not renewed with Finley logging. They're not logging up there anymore. And then Trans-Colorado. Theoretically, you know, but there is theoretically we should be, you know, all the private land livestock hauling that occurs up there, we should be requiring that they get a permit, but we've not gone there. Part of the reason was initially was that, you know, we were in discussions with the county commission, and we didn't want any distractions, you know, with regards to that becoming an issue and the focus on that and not the transfer of jurisdiction through a FRTA easement. So we didn't go there, and we just haven't, you know, really discussed it more since then, but, you know, technically we should be, again, requiring them to have permits. Anything that's gonna, you know, be in that realm of the 80, I can't remember, I think it's 85,000 pound haul weights they should be getting permits. We did, you know, at one time with the groundhog estates folks, you know, if they were building a home and or something like that, we required them, you know, to get a permit, and a lot of them were utilizing the Dolores Norwood route, just because it was a better road than the other side. But the other side, Ormiston and the Glade Road, you know, we've improved here in the last few years and a lot better condition, but we haven't had anybody come to us for a permit for that type of stuff. But like I said, anything, you know, that 85,000 pound and larger, we should be requiring a permit. And a lot of times we just don't know about it. We'll get a call and saying, hey, you know, it's all this gravel hauling going on or something like that, and by the time we figure out who it was, it's too late.
Okay. Well, I think, obviously we've got to give Ian enough time to look this over, because I'm not 100% sure I understand FRTA either, but,
Get James and Ian and Rob together.
and figure out
Yeah.
what the benefits and what the funding benefits are, and, I don't see that road changing at all. I mean, it hasn't changed in my lifetime, other than go from gravel to chip seal to pavement, and then now it's going back to gravel, which is, I think, what we want to avoid at all costs, and it's getting pretty bad. It was as bad as I've ever seen it, obviously, but, okay. We'll look at it, and we'll, 2 weeks, Ian, does that kind of work?
That
with
gives
you?
me
Yeah.
plenty of time, and I'll do some research, and then I can get with James and Rob, and we can.
So then we can get back to you and have another discussion, Ian, in a couple, Derek, in a couple weeks.
Okay.
Give Ian enough time, and then we'll,
Yeah. Take a good look at it, and see where we stand.
Sounds good. And then there are a couple other roads, the Chicken Creek Road from, well, we have a boundary gate over to the 90-degree turn there at the Hackley property, if you're familiar where that's at. That small section of road is under Forest Service jurisdiction as well, but the county, you know, has asserted that they have jurisdiction all the way to that corner. This is something else that we could take care of in that same process, should they should you so desire. And then I had some discussions with Patrick, I forgot his last name now. They own some property off the Millwood Road, you know, that they are saying, you know, that they've spoken with the county, and I don't know if they've spoken with you all, but that it's also a RS 2477 road, and you know, all the way beyond the counter, I'm not sure whose jurisdiction that is. I'm sure it's the county's, but it's a red road, and they were told that that was their road, because it's the red road, but beyond that, it's our jurisdiction, but they claim it's not. They used to have a permit with us, but now they're saying they're not gonna renew the permit with us because it's our RS 2477 road. So if the county did decide that, yes, you know, that's another road that we feel is our jurisdiction, that we could, you know. there again,
Which one is that one?
That'd be the Chicken Creek Road, or I'm sorry, the Millwood Road, the Millwood.
Millwood Road.
Yeah. That's one out by the San Juan Bible Camp and back out that way.
Yep. And then the Chicken Creek Road down.
Correct. Yeah, the next one.
Still trying to figure out what's, Derek, is that road at the end of that? The red sign road you're talking about, is that, because that road splits on past the lake right there and goes down there to the subdivision? Is it down at that subdivision? Is that where you're talking about?
Correct, but they own property beyond that. If you recall, if you remember the New Order of Colorado folks that own that property back further in there along the Millwood Road, they're the ones who, from past the subdivision, they had a permit and they upgraded that road actually for all season use. But then, I'm not sure what happened with that piece of property, and it was actually in a sheriff's auction here, and some members of that group bought it back. And then these new members are saying, you know, that it's a public road and they don't need a permit. So we need to either resolve that by, you know, just going through our process and dealing with them directly, or if the county feels that that is their road, then, you know, we could go through the same process on that.
I thought that road ended in that subdivision.
Well, he's talking about the Mormons' place
Right.
up there.
Okay, so where it kinda
Where
goes
it
to
goes-
the northwest?
It goes northwest there and it circles back around and comes around and goes up through the forest for a ways up there, and then
Okay.
that private ground that
Where it's all padlocked up and everything.
Coppingers had,
Okay.
and it's all where they had the Jeff's was there.
Polygamists. It's that group, right?
Fundamentalists, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that.
He had that, and then they actually lost it. I mean, it went through a sheriff's sale, but the church had the money against it, as I understand, and then they bought it back.
Gotcha.
And so it's under this different group now.
Yeah, it's called Blue Ranch, or Blue Mountain Ranch
Yes.
LLC.
Yeah.
And it's Patrick Pipkin is his last name, is the individual that kind of representing that group.
And then as far as the Chicken Creek Road, you're talking basically off of 184 all the way up to where it,
No.
No,
he's
just to the
talking-
forest boundary.
It's just,
okay,
after you get up there at the end of where the private ground's on both sides, the road makes a little bit of a veer to the
To the
left, and
right?
it veers to the left first. And when it veers to the left right there, it actually goes on Forest Service property right there.
And then
Because
further, yeah.
the private ground is here, and instead of it staying split in the boundary, it goes over onto where it's all on the forest.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes up there and makes a corner, and then it goes that way. Well, then there's private on both sides of it for a half a mile across there. And then it goes back on the forest again.
okay, is that where they were talking about a couple of years ago about wanting to close that road?
Close
Or-
the gate.
or it was, yeah, okay, all right, I'm with
They've
you.
been closing the gate down there lower because
Yep.
they have the country ski area
Yep.
up there, and so that they were trying to keep people from being up in there with that.
Gotcha, okay. I'm on the right, I'm on the right road now. Okay, well then, 6:20, I have it written down, Derek, we'll give you a call back and, see.
Sounds good,
see-
or, oh, okay, that's too soon. Okay, never mind.
6:20 is 2 weeks away.
Right.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Before we go to Justin, Chairman, can I try and adjust the box that's under your desk there?
Absolutely.
Maybe I can.
We're having technical difficulties, so just bear with us here. There, I think there's boxes under each one.
The county actually had Groundhog Road at one time, totally, and they turned it back to forest because they didn't want the maintenance on it, the expense of it. County actually had it for quite a while, and they actually turned it back to the forest because they didn't want to have to maintain that thing. And then we were trying to get it back, when I was in here before, we were trying to get it back because, like, all those guys that were logging up there, they were charging them to go back and forth across the road, even though they were logging on private property.
Yeah, they were
And
using
coming
it as
down,
an
and they were
access.
using that, they had to use that as access, so they were charging them quite a bit, and if they caught them with an overload, every one of those loads that they came into to the mill with, if that load was overloaded, then they fined them on top of it from the deal.
Over
So,
80
you know, and
over
you load a
80
load of
fine.
logs, it depends on how much, you know, it's hard to tell. So, anyway, when Dwayne Finley was on here, I mean, they were constantly on him. 'Cause
Yeah,
he was
looks
big.
like it isn't gonna work. We'll just have to drive on. I did print off, Justin's proposed rates. Do you have a copy with you?
I got a copy, yeah.
I'll
I
pass
don't
this
have
down.
my other stuff, but I can.
So what were the pros and cons of
Did you
that?
just do the,
Just the
Well,
rate
it's just
proposal,
the
that's
other
it.
two?
And we were trying to
Yeah,
get it back.
you can go over the other
because
two
of,
tomorrow.
because of
the
all
one
the
was
issues
kind of a
of people
breakdown of costs, but
having to buy permits from them to go, and they were, I mean,
I
they
don't
were,
think I
they
brought
were
it.
actually trying to force everybody that did anything commercial
I
to
can send
have a
it to you if
permit
you
for
want to
everything
print
to
it.
pay.
I've got them.
And then it kind of went back, and that's why we were trying to get it back from them, so they could quit. Everybody would have to, wouldn't have, be having to buy permits from them to go up and down the road.
Okay.
And had a few other things that happened. Cause there was some cattle stuck up there. And they didn't get them out. It snowed them in. And one of our employees took county truck and plowed that road out so they could get the cows out. And they went berserk.
I remember that. I actually do remember that.
Yeah. They went pretty berserk over that deal. And it was, you know, it was like, we got a call on Monday morning about it because we, you know, it happened over the weekend, we didn't know nothing about it. They, instead of contacting us and letting us know that that's what they were gonna do, they didn't do that. They just went and done it. Our employees, so we were, that was not a good thing.
Okay, all right, Justin, sorry.
Ready to go? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, he gave you the schedule in front of you there?
Yeah,
Okay. So last time I was in, we kind of talked about some of the fee rate schedule changes that we were looking at making, and I kind of gave you some comparisons with other fairgrounds around us and et cetera. So I kind of took all that information and put it into our actual rate schedule that we use and kind of did it as a proposed. So that's what you have in front of you there. So If you wanna just kinda go down through that, the yellow highlighted would be the proposed changes.
And I printed in
So-
black and white, so it's gray highlighted.
It's
Okay.
great, is that, okay, I got you, I'm with you then.
Okay,
So
so,
our great, I was gonna say, it was yellow highlighted on my iPad.
I've gone colorblind.
So you're gonna change nothing on the cleaning and damage deposit?
no, that's more of just a range depending on, you know, what all they do is what I charge. You know, so if there's just a small event, I don't charge a lot. If it's a big event, I charge more. That's, you know, and that, I think it's a decent range there, as far as the cleaning deposit goes. The booking deposit, that's something we do currently have, but we do refund it and credit it back into their total bill. But the thought is on this is to actually make that a separate charge. So you do a $50 booking fee, which kind of covers the cost of my time and admin fees, basically. You know, paper, ink, for me to go over stuff with them, things like that.
Is that, so $50 a day?
Yes. So if you have like a 3-day event, then it would be $150, which is something that it normally takes more coordination between me and them to make something like that happen, you know, through phone calls and contracts and visitations and all that stuff. If they're just doing a 1-day deal, it's $50. That was my thought on that. So just
Okay,
kind of clarify that. The rest of it, the indoor arena, the outdoor arena, that we all kind of talked about the last time. Those were kind of the rates that these are the rates I think we can be competitive with against other fairgrounds, you know, without getting crazy, I guess per se. Being fairly competitive and then also being reasonable as far as our rates go. The one thing that I did add in there would be like the $100 an hour for arena events. So if somebody wants to do a barrel race or if somebody wants to do a team roping, you know, we just charge them by the hour instead of the day. So if they want to do a 5-hour deal, $500. And then that includes them a tractor rake.
so on the outdoor arena, why so much difference between the tractor? The tractor is the same cost, whether it's upstairs or downstairs, but you have $55 an hour and $100 an hour. What's the difference?
Well, because I went off of the total cost of the arena. So if we change the indoor arena to $750 and the outdoor arena is $400 a day, then I just kind of took those and averaged out a percentage for.
But the cost of the tractor is the same.
Yes, that is correct.
So why would you change the cost of the tractor?
Well, I'm not really changing the cost of the tractor. I'm just kind of saying it includes a rake of the arena. It's not really I'm gonna charge them per the hour for the tractor.
The
If
outdoor
that
arena
makes
just
sense.
has more square footage to rake.
It does, yes, it does. But it's kind of hard for me to charge, you know, $100 an hour on the outdoor when you can rent the whole thing for less than the indoor. You know, I guess it's that kind of.
All right, keep going. I'm
Okay.
just,
Nope.
I'm just,
And then the next one down would be the kitchen, and I've bumped that to $130 a day, half rate for children. Currently, we're at $100 a day. The rest of everything on that first page is the same as it has been. If you go to the second page, set up and tear down, I believe we had it at 500 currently, and, you know, everything's going up, so I just kind of added 250 to that. That takes, you know, if I take a couple guys for a full day or something to do setup. the stall usages and the electrical hookups, we bumped $5 each per day. Dry camping, we currently don't have a fee for, so $10 is kind of what I came up with in comparison to some of the other places to do dry camping. Our holding pins, which are out there at the outdoor arena, I do have people that like to use those instead of stalls. So I kind of came up with $5 per animal per day is maybe a pretty good rate. So if they got 2 or 3, you know, like 3 it'd be $15. The sign usages for the indoor arena, currently we're at 300, and I put 600 there just to kind of, you know, put that in comparison or close to what some of the other places do. The outdoor arena, I know we went over that one a little bit, where all we do is rent those to the rodeo right now, and they're currently at 200, so I bumped them to 250. If you guys think we need to do more than that, we can, but. And then I've added the beef barn in there. If somebody wants to advertise in the beef barn, to add in, you know, $100 a day or $100 per year for a spot with the purchase of an indoor. And they can have 2 spots at the fairgrounds, if that makes sense. And then the third page, if we look at the fairground user cards, I know that's something that we were talking about last time, about trying to figure out how to go about doing those fees. And I was looking into trying to do monthly fees or weekly or something of that nature, but I just think it's too much time and work and headache on our part involved in it. And the cards that you get from IT, when I was talking to IT about that, it would be kind of hard to put a time limit on them for X amount of usage. It's really not possible. So I kind of just took it, and this is what I came up with. I think this is the easiest way to do it, is to just do yearly rates on everything like we have been doing. But obviously I've upped the cost for the kids up to $40, adults $100, family of 4, $240. Any additional members would be $40 each. And then if you kind of put that into the after hour part, which is right below it, $50 per individual per year. So if I have one adult come in and buy a $100 pass, then they can get a $50 after hour add-on. So they essentially
What's after hours?
After hours allows them to access our indoor and our beef barn.
Time frame. What's the hours? What's after hours?
When we're closed from 5 p.m. to when we open at 8 in the morning, and weekends when we're closed.
Okay.
That's the after hour. And obviously, as long as there's no events going on, which I do have quite a few events going on, so. And with the after hour, we currently charge $50, and that includes up to a whole family. So I've kind of, you know, if a family wants to buy a family pass and then they want to buy an after hour pass with it, then I've kind of upped that price to $100 for the after hour add-on. So they'd be looking at $340 a year for a family of 4 plus an after hour. And then if anybody wants a replacement key card or an additional key card for a family member, then it would be $10 a piece. If that kind of makes sense. Right under that, the labor rates, when I took our rates plus our benefits and all that stuff, or our salaries, excuse me, our salaries and benefits, and I've averaged all that out, we're right around $30 an hour. So that's what I put for our labor rates. The equipment, I bumped it up $20 to $70 per hour, just based on fuel and everything else going up, parts, etc. Panels, we currently are at $5, so I've added $2 for those. Crowd control, which are our yellow and silver ones out there, we currently don't charge anything for them, so I put a price of $2 on those. Tables, same thing, bumped them up $2. The propane heaters, we currently charge $5 per hour per bank, and when I kind of took what they use and multiplied it by, you know, $2.40 a gallon or whatever it is right now for propane. That's kind of what it comes out to, is $8. That's where I got that cost.
So what if propane moves?
Do what?
What if propane moves and it's double the amount in?
Then I guess we'd have to adjust this again, or we could look at it every year, I guess, and
I think with like fuel, everything in
I know
fuel
it.
is being prorated almost weekly now. So I don't think we wanna stick ourselves into something that we're stuck with. Because it's,
You could put market value plus %.
I think
yeah,
so.
something like that. I don't,
That way, if it goes down, we're not screwing anyone either.
correct. Yeah,
I
it
could-
can move
yeah.
either way. That way it's fair to everybody. It's not I mean,
yeah, we could do that. We could put, current market value or something in there.
Yeah, market value plus whatever markup you're gonna put on it.
And, you know, I mean, I really don't know that we should mark it up per se.
Well, I mean, you get a delivery charge when it's charged to you,
Yes,
so it needs to
that-
that is
include that.
correct.
that has to be in there because.
But I kind of factored that into that $8, because it came out to 7 something, so I kind of did factor that in a little bit.
Who's our propane supplier?
Freely.
Okay.
The bleachers, pulling those from the indoor, we currently charge $325 to do that. That is a 2-day event, or 2-day thing for us to do, to pull those bleachers out and put them back in. So I kind of bumped that up to $1,500.
Yeah.
That would be, you know, taking our salary or our cost of labor and kind of factoring that into the amount of time it takes for us to actually do it. For us to actually ink those, it's about a day and a half, and then a day and a half to ink, put them back in. So that's where I came up with $1,500 on that. Stage rental, we don't currently charge to rent the stage or people to use it. So $150 is kind of what I came up with, just from a couple comparisons on the other fairgrounds, for us to basically set it out and put it up for them. And that only takes us, you know, an hour to do, so it's not too big of a deal. The setup days or additional setup days needed, we currently don't charge anything for those, so I put half rate of rental per day. So if somebody wants to hold an event and they want the day before to set up, then, you know, if they're, say, $750 for the indoor arena, the day before would be half rate if they want that to set it up, unless they're doing a fairgrounds fee, which we'll get into in a little bit. The indoor winter practices, I added this into here because we don't have it on a fee schedule, but this is something we do in the winter time for the groups that come in after hours. So I just kind of thought maybe we should add it to our fee schedule at least. That way it's in writing and on here. Youth are $15 per hour, adults are $30 an hour, and that's only Monday through Friday after 5 p.m. that they get to use the facility, and that's for the 4-H and the high school rodeo and the pony club, the roping practices, so. And then if we get to the last page, those are our total fairground fees. One's called the special event fairgrounds, the other one's the special event building. The difference between the two is the fairgrounds gives you the big parking lot. The buildings does not, it just gives you the buildings. I've upped both of those $500 per day, and then put in there includes 2 days of setup and 1 day of tear down for the events. Which I tried to kind of put in the comparison on what the other fairgrounds charged and did, so that's where that kind of come from.
So how much difference does this make annually to, if you compare it to what you currently have right now?
So if
Because
you-
what
yeah.
we're trying to do is make up the difference in
Mhm.
2021, like we talked about,
Exactly.
it was 85,000. In 2020, it was 69,000, and in 2019, it was 150,000.
Yes,
So,
did you give them a print off the thing for that? Okay, so there's kind of a comparison between, and what I did here is I took the first 5 months of this year, because it was kind of hard for me to use last year because I just had too much information. So this is kind of our first 5 months of the year, January to June 1st. And if you see the orange highlighted, that's what we would get with this new proposed rate on each one of those, compared to my revenue on the left. And then if you go scroll all the way down to the total in the green, you see we made 55,000 out there for the first 5 months this year. If we would use our new proposed rate schedule, we would make 90,845 for the first 5 months. I generally, the first part of the year, we make more revenue out there just because we have our bigger shows. And
because after July, you're pretty much over with, right? I mean,
yes and no.
You start in March.
So we
really?
we normally bring in about another 40,000 on top of what we have already. So if you add 40,000 to the 90, we're at 130. And if I can get another 20 out of that for the second half of the year, my goal is that we could get about 150 out of this whole thing. If we just change this right here, we should be able to get about 150,000 per year. Total.
Total or
Yep.
more?
Total. And if you go to the other one that I sent you, the 2021 budget summary, I think 179,000, yeah, 176,000 is what we spent, or
Yeah, the actual we
Yep.
spent was 176,985.
exactly. So this would put us, you know, still maybe 30,000 short of that. But that's probably about as close as we could get as far as the rate schedules go.
So let me ask you a question, because like they do with water fees, sewer fees, so on and so forth, so that we don't get in this type of a situation again, these fees haven't been moved for,
Not since
Who knows?
Tanner was.
Yeah, who knows?
not, obviously, so it's easier to move fees incrementally, like 5% or 6% or something less than 10% annually until we get it corrected. To move fees like this at one chunk, it's always less appealing or palatable to anybody and everybody. But we're to the point of like we said last time, we've got to stop the bleeding. So
And I think this is really the only way that we can get to that, unless you're wanting to look at just a small percentage, but then,
I think, no, I get where you're trying to get to right here, but it still doesn't,
Permanently fix the problem.
no.
it doesn't fix the problem. So to fix the problem, if we do it, start with this, and then next year it just goes up another, and here again, I'm saying 6%, 7%, I don't know what that
I know.
would have to be. It could be a little more, it could be a little less, but little bites are easier to take than, you know,
I agree.
waiting 10 years at a time and then having to do these huge chunks.
I agree. It's kind of hard
So-
to sell this, you know, to our people that come and visit, where it's, you know, 1 year it's this price and then the next year it's this price, you know. But
That's-
obviously, we're so far off.
Well, and then one thing for those viewing out in YouTube land that people need to understand is even though there's a benefit to the area in general when the fairgrounds is packed, without a sales tax, the county doesn't benefit from having all those people. The county is an entity because those people come to town, they use our resources, our sheriff's office, our roads, our whatever, and then the property owners supplement it because the people who are coming to visit aren't contributing to the cost of it.
Gentlemen, what do you think? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, we're so far behind because raises weren't taken into consideration, like you said. But this is a start. And I think we need to look at
I think it's a
an
start.
annual review.
Well, I would just say, we already know if you're within $30,000, we already know that we've gotta make that up, and what is it gonna be next year?
We
It
could write a
be
resolution
50,000.
changing the fees and have a therefore in there that says that it would increase 2% annually unless voted on otherwise by the Board of Commissioners.
I'm not sure 2%.
Whatever the percentage
Yeah.
comes out to be. But by resolution, you could make that happen unless you vote not to change it.
Now, the other thing we gotta look at is, are you gonna do 2% across the whole board on this thing? Cause if you start looking into like stalls and things like that, I mean, now we start looking into, like, if you add 2% on the $25, now I'm looking at change and stuff, and it's very hard for people to pack change, or me to pack change, you know, out there at some of these events, if I'm renting, you know, 100 stalls. So, a
What do
very
you mean to
select few
pack
of these.
change? What are you talking about?
So like if we do 2% on top of $25, that's not gonna come out to an even number.
Okay,
So if we decide to go, you
That'd
know,
be 50 cents.
yeah, we're
so-
gonna go here and then we're gonna go 2%.
So people
um,
paying with cash, you'd have to give them 2/4 back and you don't keep a cash drawer.
No, we do not.
why
Yeah.
do we not have accept a debit card or credit
I'm
card?
I'm trying to get that into place,
That's
um,
simple.
but,
Well, it takes coordination with IT and the treasurer
Yeah.
also.
and right now it's in application mode, so application's in, we're waiting to hear back from whoever it is that does it, so. And that's something that hasn't ever been in the past, and so it's something that we started working on a couple months ago.
Do they charge us for the use of those cards?
Yeah, of course, but we
Yeah.
must pass that charge on.
It's not quite a 3% fee, I think, but it gets charged to the actual, person using the card, so we're not paying it. But, that's just something I'm saying that we might need to keep in consideration if you do decide to add 2% each year, or whatever that number is. Do we do that to every single item on here, or do we just do it to maybe, you know, things besides panels and stalls, and just do that stuff in?
I would say, just my opinion is, everything that you're doing out there is going to increase.
Mhm.
So it should be across the board, in my opinion,
Yeah,
because
because if you go to replace a panel that you paid $100 for 10 years ago, that panel's gonna cost you $150 now,
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
or more.
now,
Yeah,
200.
yeah,
Yes, it does. I know. The last ones
150
we
in
bought
8
were quite a bit
months.
more.
right.
Justin, whenever if we do that, even if you're going like 5%, if it gets above that 50 cent deal, you just
Just
jump
round
it to
it.
the next dollar.
Just
Okay.
round
If
it
it's
up.
below that,
Yep.
you keep it down the dollar.
And that's fine.
Don't try to
That's fine.
nitpick it like that. I mean,
Okay.
that's not our intent. We just,
I was just trying to look at, you know, like,
Yeah.
if we decide to kind of go down that route, you know, as far as dollars goes, and trying to, you know,
And I'm good with
Collect
that
that
too.
stuff.
If it's $2.49, it goes to
Okay.
$2. If it's $2.51, it goes to $3. Just,
Perfect.
Yeah,
you
just-
can make that
we just-
determination
yeah.
within pennies.
I mean,
Okay.
we're not gonna,
so this is kind of my thought in a nutshell, just for, maybe, you know, the start of 2023. Now, obviously, I already have contracts that are already wrote up for the beginning of 2023, so they're already under contract for our current prices on some of this stuff. So everything next year would not be going to a, you know, a rate schedule if you decided to change this, but, you know, besides those contracts that are already out and signed and et cetera, you know, that's my thought, is to maybe start this for 2023. And then if you guys think that maybe every year we just need to look at it and
I think
add 2% or whatever, you know,
I'm gonna say, figure out what that percentage is to get us back to
To-
whole.
to
And
cover
whatever
the
it
extra.
is,
Okay.
because you're already short $30,000 still.
Yeah.
Is
We
all-
can- we
is all
can
we're
do it by
asking-
resolution and just set it to increase every year unless you vote otherwise.
Correct. So, like I said, it's 2% probably not gonna get it, but I think you're gonna be probably closer to 6-7%.
Now, do you guys have an idea in mind maybe about over how many years to get to our,
Well, inflation doesn't seem, I don't see a stopping point.
It's
No,
not,
but if we get to our 30,000 coverage, like just say, for the sake of argument, this gives us 150 a year, and we need to get to 180, you know, do we want to cover that in 5 years, or do we want to cover it and you know?
it's gotta be sooner than later, in my opinion, because the bleeding, it's gone on for so long right
Well,
now,
but if you stop it after 5 years.
you're gonna get
then
behind.
In
You're just getting
15, you'll
behind.
be 10 years behind.
No, but after 5 years, then you can continue to increase your
You may move
percentage.
the number, it may go from, say, 7% to 2%. I see what
Okay.
you're saying,
I got you,
but
okay.
you just have to look to see what the inflation costs are. We're not here to make money on it, we're just here to be even. Correct, guys? That's all
yeah.
we're trying to do, is just, so
We
if
can't
we
continue
correct
to lose
it,
this kind of money.
if we correct it and we hit the 30,000, and the next year, the inflation rates go down, which That's
That would be nice.
wishful thinking, but it could happen. You know, then you would move that percentage to
Yes.
2%
No,
or whatever,
I
but
understand
it
what
has
you're-
to be reviewed annually, and then we have to
Okay.
see what the rates are doing. But
I
would
understand
say
what you're
yes.
saying now.
By
so-
resolution, we move these, and I would almost say,
That
what
resolution
do
is a
you
good
have
idea.
posted for 2023?
As far as,
You said you have contracts under this current
yeah,
rate.
so pretty
because-
much everything for the first 5 months of the year is already under contract for 2023.
So we make it start at June 2023.
Yeah, but I don't think anybody's gonna squabble over I mean,
Yeah,
the rates have changed, it's not, we can't,
I mean, if it's
That's
already,
an attorney.
if it's already under contract, then it's already set there, but if you imply this for 2023, and let's just say it gets voted on tomorrow, you know, and that means if I write a contract next week that's in 2023, a new contract, then we would go under this
so
rate schedule.
why, my question to you is, why would we wait until 2023 when we have 6 months left to go out of this year? We just did this with
We-
the sheriff the other day, we had to raise the fees in the jail for the daily rates because, and we started that June 1,
Gotcha.
because
I say we start the rates now that we don't have, I mean, or July 1st,
yeah, July 1st, which would be.
that we don't have the contracts for.
That's
Any
fine.
new
Yeah, it
contracts,
changes
yeah.
immediately because we can't.
I mean, we could do it. I mean, we're just not going to see very many new contracts come out the rest of this year. That's
And I
kinda why
understand
said
that,
yeah.
but then it's there.
I gotcha.
And anybody else that's coming is gonna see that rate change.
I gotcha.
If you start it in 2023, they're gonna be looking at everything old.
So the only other question on this would be, does this have to be advertised for X amount of days before this can be set into place? Or,
Not legally.
okay,
Fee
This is a
schedule.
change in rate, so. yeah.
then yeah, I don't see an issue with putting it in, you know,
You might,
as soon as
out of
possible.
courtesy, contact the people that you typically
yes.
deal with.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, I would think that would be just a courtesy to let them know, hey, by the way, you know, we have to change these rates.
And some of them already know. I've already talked to some of them, you know, this is something that we're looking at discussing and going over, so they get it. Yeah, so I guess, is there any questions on this whole thing, you know, specifics or other stuff that I can answer besides the,
Well, I've got a few questions, but I asked the first one, because I still don't understand the charge of the equipment. I guess you're gonna have to get a little bit more in depth from the indoor to the outdoor arena.
so, the way I came up with this, and I can't remember what the percentage was, but the reason I looked at it that way was because this is something that McGuire kind of does down there at their park. They do a per day, and then they do a hourly rate for just arena events like that, which gives them a tractor or whatever. So when I took this, I said, okay, we're gonna go up to $750 per day for the indoor, and then we're gonna go up to $400 per day for the outdoor. Obviously, those are two different rates for two different arenas.
Right, I understand
All right,
that.
so now if I go and I say, I'm gonna charge you $100 an hour for the indoor, and I'm also gonna charge you $100 an hour for the outdoor, for a rodeo event, then if you do a 3-hour minimum, they're both $300. Which I mean, we could do, but I just didn't think that that was fair based off of what you were getting or receiving. So I took it more as a percentage, saying, if you do an 8-hour day at $100 an hour, you're around that $750 per day. You're at $800. If you do an 8-hour day on $55 per hour, you're close to the $450 per day or whatever, which came out to, I can't remember what that came out to times 8, but it kind of gave, that's where I kind of came up with that, as far as the change, or that difference, I guess, per se, the $55 per hour compared to the $100 per hour. And I'm not necessarily saying, like, when you look at that there's a
that's what.
a fixed price with the tractor. It's just saying that we will rake it for, you know, we will rake the arena a minimal amount of times. Obviously, we're not gonna go in there and rake it after every
Do you
damn
want
barrel.
to change the verbiage to arena raking instead of tractor?
It was just, I mean, it was just something that I was looking at to maybe,
Yeah, I get what you're doing.
to maybe entice some of our rodeo events to come in and not have to pay a full day. You know, if they just wanna run a 3-hour event, then they could. Otherwise, we could just scratch that all together and say it's $750 per day in the indoor, no matter what you do, like we do now. And it's $400 or $450 with the lights in the outdoor, which is what we do now. We don't do the only reason I added that in there was because we do currently do a special evening rate for $225 from 6 to 9 p.m. And I thought, well, let's just get rid of the 6 to 9 p.m. evening rate for 3 hours and maybe do something like this, and maybe it would entice more of those type of events to come in and do something not just in the evenings.
I don't know,
That's kind of the train of thought on that.
What are your guys' thoughts on that? I kind of like what Gerald said the first time. Instead of dissecting everything, just say it's whatever it is per day, and that'll give you 3 rakings, whether it's upstairs or downstairs. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, if you rent it for the day, you get it, and you'll rake it, I don't know, 2 times, 3 times. What is average to rake it? I mean,
On a,
Depends on whether you have
Yeah.
a whole bunch of women out there barrel racing
yeah,
or
that's the
not.
difference, really.
That's the
all right,
difference.
so barrel
Most of the
racing.
barrel racers, they want you to rake it every time you turn around. Most other events, it's not that big a deal, but the women barrel
So that's
racing
different.
isn't.
Now,
I mean,
here's-
you could,
here's the other thing.
this man can tell you exactly what that.
So would that be, and again, I don't know how many times depending on how many barrel racers they are, but if
Yeah,
you rake
it's
it,
hard to put a time on it, because when you rake for a barrel race, you run out there and do 3 spins and you're out. It's like 3 minutes. When you rake for the whole arena, then you're out there for 15, 20 minutes. raking
sure,
the
because
whole
you're
thing.
doing the whole thing.
Yes, so it's
When
kind of
he's-
hard when we do.
When he's, and like you said, it doesn't take that long for the tractor or anything. It's not a big amount of time
No, it's
that it
not.
takes to rake it. It's just that the amount of times you have to do it, a lot of times, is like for the
Right.
barrels, is a lot
Yes,
more than
and-
others.
And if they
Yeah.
want me to rake after every barrel, then we are gonna charge them extra. You know, if they want me to rake after every 3 barrels, generally they want raked after every 7, so that's normally fine. Team ropings and things like that, they rake maybe 3 times a night, between each set of their team ropings. So that's kind of, I mean.
Well, then I'm gonna go with what you're proposing here. I don't, because it sounds like there's way too many.
There is, and that's where it's kind of hard to put these variables in, and you're thinking, well, how do I?
Well, here's what we can do, is you can see how it works for the next 6 months. If it doesn't work, then we fix it.
Then we can readjust it.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's
Because
fine.
it doesn't mean that it's gonna be perfect.
Exactly.
It could be off one way or the other.
And we might have to adjust something, if it seems like it doesn't work right, but, Yeah.
I'm sorry, are you familiar with government?
so just so you know, the next 6 months, I don't know that I really will have any new contracts that will take that into effect. I might, But most of my barrel race and team roping contracts are already set for this year. So this next 6 months, I might not be able to see nothing with that. But, you know, I'll see if we do.
Well,
So,
if the potential arises, you'll be able to,
yes.
Yes.
you'll be
Yes,
able to tell.
Exactly. I just don't know if
So-
it will.
We can put this on unfinished business for tomorrow, guys, if you're okay with that?
Yep.
Yeah.
And-
Roger that. Well, we'll just do it during his presentation tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll be here
Okay.
tomorrow, so,
So then we'll
Okay.
put it at July 1st, 2022,
Yeah.
start?
now, the only other thing is the propane heaters, you know, do we wanna change that to a, I
Market
guess, a
value.
market value?
Yes.
Is that kinda,
Yeah, because if that continues to rise, it's gonna be, that's not gonna cover the cost
Okay.
of the fuel.
that's fine.
And how did you get a rate on that? Does it give you a BTUs of what it's burning
Yes.
per hour?
Yes, it's, it comes out to about 1 gallon per hour per each bank. So I have, or not per each bank, per each heat.
Per each run?
So each one of those runs is gonna use about 6 gallon, if I remember right. Wait, 3 gallon. You're gonna run 3 gallon on each one of my runs, each bank. So if you take 3 times 240, it came out to 7 something, I think. And then I factored in a little bit for,
720.
huh?
720.
720. Then I kind of looked at, you know, delivery fees and whatever. So that's where I got the $8.
Yeah, I think it just, that one's gonna be with
No, I
fuel
get it.
right now, it's moving all over the place. I mean, we were just talking about that when we walked in here, you know, what is diesel at right now today? What is
And maybe-
gas at right now?
Maybe nobody can afford to go out there anymore, you know, and this is on you.
Those big diesel trucks pulling them great big horse trailers is gonna cost some money to pull.
Yes, it is.
And slowed them down with all them big campers,
No,
No, it hasn't.
and slowed them down a bit.
Let me tell you, in Yellowstone and Grand Tetons, it wasn't slowing on one of them down. They were
Yeah.
all just going just like they were. So what's,
So
you
do
know,
want me to-
I,
you
we're
want me
not
add those
trying to
couple
hurt
changes and send
anybody.
you? Okay.
We're just trying to not
Yeah.
hurt the county.
Sounds like the whole world's gassed up.
And then the
Um,
ones that I didn't do nothing on was the beef barn, swine barn, and poultry barns, you know. I don't feel like raising those would be, I mean, the beef barn's already at $300 a day, and what do you gain over, you know, the indoor on that? You know, it's just a barn, so, I mean, if
Right.
later on we decide to do percentage raises, then we could. But I feel like just leaving those the same right now is the thing to do, so. Yes, unless you guys got any other questions on any of this stuff.
Just find out what, to answer your question is, you know, what does that take to get, in 3 years, be back to zero?
Okay.
Like I said, that percentage number could be whatever that math works out to be.
No, I got you, to get to cover our full cost.
Right, and that's all we're asking is just to cover the cost.
Okay.
That's it.
No, I get it, and after that, maybe if it stays the same percentage for inflation, or if we can reduce it.
Well, I mean, yeah, you gotta factor that in too.
Okay. Okay. I'll look it over. let you
Because
know.
I can tell you right now, just our rates for employees are going up. Our insurance is going up, everything is going up, so make sure you factor everything in there, because that's the biggest cost.
It's not entirely true. The value of our dollars is actually going down.
Okay, however you wanna say it,
Okay. I just don't
because
wanna-
I'd rather take little bites at a time instead of doing this, that we haven't adjusted it in so
No, I
many
get it.
years.
I get it, and I do think most of this still keeps us lower than our surrounding competitors. So it can keep us competitive against them, you know, because I do hate to raise all this stuff and then we lose our events that come in here and they say, well, I want to go down there, or I want to go over there, you know. which is a
Sure.
possibility if we do all
So
this
then the
stuff.
next question that I have for you is, and we talked about this earlier, what have you worked on or what have you thought of to promote it to where we can get more business in? Because that's the other thing, is you gotta increase your revenue. How do you increase your revenue and not just accept what comes to you, but what are we doing to reach out to capture and gather everything else?
No,
You don't have
exactly.
to answer
No,
that
I got you.
right now.
And I'm looking things over, you know, I'm trying to figure out things that we can put out there at the fairgrounds to possibly, you know. Only problem is that sometimes you gotta spend money to make money, and that's kind of the hard part I'm looking at right now. It's like, how do we make something happen out there without, you know?
Well, we have, just like we did this year, we have CTF
Mhm.
that we can do some of that with, just like we're gonna fix that other beef, what do you call
Wash
it?
rack.
Wash
Beef
rack?
wash rack, yeah.
Yeah.
And we're using that grant plus CTF funds to do that, so it's not that we're opposed to using that grant
know
money,
it-
it's, what do we do to create the revenue so that it continues to pay for itself?
Exactly, agreed.
Okay.
Gotcha. All right,
Okay, thanks, Justin.
yep. See you guys.
Thank you.
Rodeo's this weekend if you,
Yahoo.
they're
I'll be-
coming in, so.
I'll be there Friday night. I got a grandson mutton busting.
Right, oh, yeah, nice.
All righty.
Friday night,
Friday night.
I'll be there.
I think that's when one of Kelling's boys is up to.
Oh, I'm going. I gotta go, I love that.
You can take my place.
Okay, I'll do it.
Uh,
You gotta
are-
be-
are we
Yeah,
gonna-
I'll put you in that truck, and I'll let you in the gate free. You just have to go over there and sign in, and you cannot leave until it's totally over.
Wait.
It's gonna
You're-
start
you're-
Thursday morning at 9 o'clock, the slack.
Oh, my
They're not
heavens.
doing it at night now, and it's hard, you'll be there until way in the afternoon, I'm sure.
Hold on a
Oh, they're
second.
doing
And
it
Thursday
now?
night, you
I
gotta
thought
be-
you were talking about having him take a place mutton busting a sheep. I didn't think you were gonna have him be a
No,
vet.
I wasn't gonna torture a sheep that bad.
All right, so they're doing the slack in the morning then?
Yeah, because, I mean, we have to be there. One of us has to be there and sign in for them to have
For
their
the
rodeo.
vet, yep.
And so we volunteer our time to be there. And they've been doing it at night,
Yep.
like on Thursday night or Friday night, one or the other, they do the slack, and it's always like 1 o'clock in the morning
Yep.
before it's over. So we have to stay there until then, until it's over. And so now,
like
this
another
year, they
3
moved the
hours.
slack till Thursday morning, I think at 9 o'clock, isn't it?
I think it's 9 is when
Yeah,
it's gonna start.
anyway, at least it won't be in the middle of the night.
Should make it run way nicer, way nicer.
I'm not real sure. It's gotta be better than that after the
Oh,
rodeo.
yeah, I would think so. All right, I'll come
Oh.
out there with you Thursday morning. I won't know anything, but I can be there.
I don't have to do anything unless they have a real wreck, so.
Right.
just
Okay,
have to
sounds
be
good.
there.
All right, next we have our bike trail easement discussion. So Ian, I'm sure that this is for you.
It is, and the landowners that are gonna be granting this easement, they have not signed the easement yet. Talked to their attorney earlier today, she was gonna try to maybe get them to sign it, apparently they're on the road somewhere. And so if it does come over, I should have it tomorrow, she wasn't sure if she'd be able to get it to me tomorrow or not. So, we're gonna have to put this under unfinished business because we don't have it yet.
Okay.
I do have it under unfinished business for tomorrow,
Perfect.
coincidentally.
I figured we'd talk about it today, but since we don't have it, we'll chat about it tomorrow.
Okay, well then next is you also, Ian, is the NCA discussion, so,
Yep. I actually just got a red line copy from John Whitney, Senator Bennett's assistant, within the last 15 minutes. It's up on the screen here. It's helpful because it incorporates all the most recent changes. It actually has the red line. The copy that Gerald and I saw during our meeting last week didn't have the red line. I guess what I really want to discuss with you guys today is kind of the big changes that we've made in recent months and the changes that have been made since October when this draft was posted on Senator Bennett's website. I think the biggest thing that we really need to talk about is the changes with the water language, because that's really been what we've been talking about. But certainly when we rejoined the discussions, one of the big questions was unreasonably diminish, what that was going to mean, how that was going to be defined. What we came to was that unreasonably diminished would be defined the same way that it was it is in the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act. And so there is quite a bit of case law that discusses how that term is defined. I mean, obviously, that unreasonably diminished standard is going to be something that's going to be new under this NCA. But really, this was something that, there's a lot in the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act that was given up with land and even with water. This was sort of the one piece that was hung on to by the conservation community. And so unreasonably diminished as used in this NCA will be the same unreasonably diminished term that we see in the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act. The other thing that we did is we did work with the definition of a water resource project. At this point, the term water resource project means any dam, irrigation, or pumping facility, reservoir, water conservation work, aqueduct, canal, ditch, pipeline, well, hydropower project, and transmission and other ancillary device and other water diversion, storage, and carriage structure. Really what it means is it's going to be pretty much any project that happens either in the covered area or in the upper basin, or upper Dolores. So that definition has been hashed out. What I want to do now is I want to jump down to page I want to jump down to page 12, Shek.
I'd like to say while I'm scrolling there, just a gratitude to Commissioner Copenhafer and Attorney McLaren for getting that definition in there, because leaving unreasonably diminish undefined would not have been good.
And so I think this is really where we see the biggest changes that were made between the original draft that you guys saw and what we have now. Originally, there was a lot of talk about large and small water development projects. Commissioner Copenhafer's been involved in these negotiations for a long time. I think that there was always a diversion of opinion exactly how those were going to be defined, and that was a big sticking point over the course of the negotiations going way back before we even walked away from the table originally. Where we ended up coming to was this definition, and you'll see it there it starts under C, where it's large-scale water development is crossed out. What we're going to see there is water resource projects. What we came to is, in essence, what this language means is subject to the valid existing rights in the covered area of the NCA. The Secretary can't grant a loan, a permit, a license, or otherwise approve construction or modification of any water resource project located on the covered land that would unreasonably diminish the resource values in the lower Dolores or affect the free-flowing character of any stream within the covered land. Shaq, if you'll go down just a little bit. A little bit more. This was the part that we really spent a lot of time hashing out. So for areas of the river that are located outside, or areas of the river outside the NCA, what we did is we put a limitation clause here. And what it does is it doesn't let that unreasonably diminished standard apply to the construction of small diversion dams or stock ponds, new minor water developments in accordance with existing water rights. And check, go down just a little bit.
So in other words, like you were explaining the other day, if because the river washes out your
You
little
don't have to have
ditch or
that.
something, you can move it
Yep.
because of the complications of what happened by Mother Nature, and you don't have to go through. Okay, good.
And then you'll see this third part, minor modifications to structures or nothing will affect the access to or operation, maintenance, repair, replacement of existing water resource projects. You know, I think in our discussions, what we kept coming back to was we did not want to affect the small-scale water users in terms of if they needed to move a ditch or if there was something that needed to be changed with the stock pond. We didn't want to have those folks go through the Section 7 analysis, the unreasonably diminished standard. We wanted to exempt those folks outside the covered land, and that's really what we've done.
And this is just within the boundaries of the NCA.
Well,
And
the,
it's
the,
upriver too.
the one part that within the boundaries of the NCA is still subject to that
Okay.
unreasonably diminished thing, but the rest of this stuff on up the river and all that stuff is not,
Okay.
because it's outside the boundaries. But,
And I may be getting ahead, but are the boundaries defined?
The boundaries are defined.
yeah, boundaries are defined, and really, see, when you look at from the dam basically down, even if we put the Montezuma County's part of it back in there as part of the NCA, the diversions that are there are,
there.
well, yeah, they're there, and there's not hardly any diversions there, period.
In
There's
that
not.
stretch.
I think actually, there is one or two that are actually above that, but see, the thing of it is, it's in private ground, and the NCA does not take in the private ground.
Right.
It's not part of the NCA, so it's not in the covered ground, basically. So you're basically, all of those things are out of it. So they shouldn't be subject to it.
Right.
So even if they are, there's so few diversions from that dam on down that river that it's unreal, because they bought all the Fish and Game bought all that ground from those people, from basically down to Bradfield Bridge. There's just a couple of small parcels of private ground in there.
Yeah.
So,
Wow, good. So then we got everything we were asking for.
Except for Plateau Creek, but we got everything else.
Well, but that's a project. That would be a
I
major
mean,
project.
that
that's-
thing, the thing of it is, when you look at big projects like Plateau Creek, they're gonna be subject to such
Oh,
scrutiny, no matter what,
Yeah,
that realistically,
this doesn't affect that kind
well,
of
I
project.
don't think it's gonna affect one thing as far as, it's gonna go under such scrutiny no matter what kind of a project you put in where you're gonna obstruct the flow like that's going to do. Any kind of project like that's gonna go through such a scrutiny.
Well, and unless hydrology returns, we'd never be able to fill it anyway. So.
No.
But maybe it will someday. So Ian, what do you need from the commission? Do you need a resolution for them to sign tomorrow? There's no signature line on this. What do you need to move forward on this?
Well, so really what we're gonna need is a letter of support, a formal letter of support saying that we support this.
For this language.
We don't need this tomorrow at our meeting. They said, we need to get it before the bill's introduced, obviously. I can probably draft something up tonight or certainly have it to you by next week. Gerald and I are gonna attend a meeting, with the San Juan Basin Conservation District on Wednesday. I think that the hope from our work group was that we could show unity across the board with all the stakeholders there. San Miguel County and Dolores County will be there. And so I think the hope at that meeting was that if we could present a unified front to them, that they may supply a letter of support as well. Really, at this point, I think it sounded like Dolores County was going to update their letter of support. I think San Miguel will probably do the same. I don't anticipate those are going to be out officially by Wednesday.
So why don't you have it to us by next week?
I think
That
what
give
we
you guys enough time to get to that meeting and then.
I think what we do need though is I think that, if this is something that you guys are comfortable with and you want to support, I would suggest that you, vote tomorrow and at least say that you're behind this, as it's currently written, so Gerald and I can go and indicate that Montezuma County is behind this. And
So-
then we can get an official letter.
Do you wanna add that also under unfinished business, Shaq?
I
It's
have
on
it
the-
under unfinished business, and Ian, I've got the letter of
So-
support I had earlier in the year, I'm happy to shoot that over to you.
I'll look at that. You know, we
So we can-
certainly
okay.
can even sign that letter of support tomorrow, potentially. I'll see where we're at with it.
Because I don't think we actually signed that letter
No,
of
we did
support
not.
until
We
you
did not.
guys
Yeah,
figured out what,
well, for sure that we want,
yeah, okay.
yeah.
So letter
No,
on
but-
letter of support.
But I think that's, I mean, I think it's as good as we're gonna get
Yep.
as far as
Yeah,
the protections we wanted for the water and everything. I mean, I think we've actually,
I think you guys did a great job getting unreasonably diminished, defined, and getting those other protections for the small users in there. I think you
I
guys
do
did a
too.
very good job on
I
that.
think you did good.
well, I
think you did
certainly,
well.
certainly it's been really helpful to have Gerald on board. The knowledge
he done
bank is
good.
huge. So,
Very good. So we'll add that, if that letter is good with you, Ian, we can actually go ahead and sign that letter the way this is now. Cause this is better language, which protects us. Perfect.
Okay.
I like it.
Thank you,
I'll
guys.
look at that letter this evening and make tweaks to it and
Okay.
hopefully have it tomorrow.
Yep.
And then we'll plan on, well, and then after a decision's made, we can indicate at Wednesday's meeting where the county stands.
So it's 3:00. This might be premature, but do we want to talk about Ironwood? I know it's not on the agenda, but,
We can discuss other items, so as
We
far as the
can?
agenda.
Okay.
We
All
can.
right.
We can, yeah, we can discuss Ironwood right now if you want. But I'll defer to Ian on what he wants to.
Commissioner, you know, we're still waiting for,
Okay.
some guidance from CDPHE and
Okay.
an update from them. So I would suggest that we put off that discussion till we hear from them.
Till we get back.
Yeah.
Okay.
One thing I did want to bring up was Chairman Candelaria had proposed a different technique for interviewing candidates for the county administrator position. And if you want to discuss what you had in mind for that, Chairman.
I will, and I kind of briefly went over that with you guys, but we have 14 applicants. We've got a couple choices, we can kind of go through them and kind of weed them out, seeing if we want to bring one or two of them in, or if we want to bring in the whole group. But basically, what I thought we would do is we set up, I'm going to say an all-day test, but we actually bring the applicants in, they have an in-basket they have to go through, then they're pulled out randomly, go through an interview process, go through a role play process, have a lunch, an informal discussion at lunch, and then we end up the day, and then we review all of their in-baskets, their responses to that. It's basically one day, but we get everybody done in one day. And the day that I thought would be the day to do it would be next Monday, the 13th. That gives them a week's notice that we would be looking for the interim position, which then hopefully turns into a full-time position, but we have that flexibility. So what are your guys' thoughts? Have you?
I think so. I think we should look at these and pare it down a little
Okay.
bit. I don't know what the number would be. I would recommend down to 5.
And you guys could all bring your recommendations. I printed everything for you. You could take a home look at
Right.
it tonight, and bring your recommendations. I might suggest that either during that day or separately, you do take some of the interview questions and ask some things that may not be revealed during the exercise, like what do you think is the role of local government, that kind of thing, that you may or may not be revealed in an exercise, but would certainly be important to know for this position.
Part of that, I think what Commissioner Candelaria is speaking of, there will be an interview. You will,
Absolutely.
you will rotate,
So we'll-
rotate, and each candidate
Okay.
will sit for an interview.
Yeah, so
Okay.
they start in here and then, we
And
get-
IT said it would be better to do it at the EOC, but I don't think place matters.
place doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Pick a spot, it doesn't matter to us.
Okay.
Then that way we have plenty of room to get it done. Are you guys, first of all, are you good with next Monday?
Yes.
Okay, So-
Let me look.
that would be
Well, you guys
13.
need to decide if you want me to, participate in that or not too. I am good with the 13th all day.
Okay,
Are
so-
you Ian?
I am.
So
Okay.
we would then cancel the
the
afternoon workshop.
Yeah, because this,
I've already got some things on the afternoon workshop.
what, well, I did see the email that you sent to the board of, Rogers.
Lodgers Committee and,
That can be pushed off a week though, that's not critical.
well, I've got another deal that, is only gonna be able to happen on the 13th, but we could give them the opportunity to run it. Well, you couldn't have 5 people running it though. That would be mayhem.
Okay. We could do our workshop later in the day, we could start it at 5 PM. We haven't had a night session at all yet, guys. I know
Yeah.
Gerald, you're trying to get out from being here till 1 o'clock, 1 AM, but let's, since you're not gonna be at the rodeo, we as well pull up the slack here.
That's not a bad idea. I mean, I don't know where Gerald sits, but to have on a work, a work session day, having it later in the day, we could start 4 or 5 o'clock.
I would say, I think we could be done by 4 o'clock pretty easy, Shaq, with this testing process. Start it at 5 o'clock and we do our work session next week at 5 PM.
Okay?
So if the lodger's tax is not critical, push that to the following week, just whatever you feel is critical. Are you okay with that, Commissioner?
Yep, that's fine.
I may be a little grouchy. I gotta go to the dentist that morning.
You're a little bit grouchy anyway.
Plenty of that,
Oh, you haven't seen grouchy?
that gas they give you,
Yeah. Happy gas?
yeah,
Yeah. I come floating through the door.
yeah. Okay, so then do you guys wanna pare this down to 5 and then we discuss it tomorrow, or do you wanna go through them together today?
Let's
Or-
pare it down overnight and see where we
Okay.
stand.
Yeah, I would say everybody just bring their recommendation and we can have HR call. I don't think we wanna discuss the resumes on YouTube.
No.
No. Just for my information, do we background check all of these folks, Shaq?
So,
Not
once
for
you
interview.
guys have made a decision, we would run a background check on who you had decided to, but not offer the job to them until they had completed that and, drug screening.
Okay. And how do we background? Do we go NCIC, CCIC?
Check with Lynn, she does.
Oh, okay, all right. I mean, sex offender and all that kind of stuff. So
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
social media, do we check that?
All
You know,
right.
that's actually a very good question. And,
I Facebook stalk people,
But
but.
I've actually had that.
It's
asked,
happening, yeah.
Is to show me your social media account and who's on your account. Real question.
But do we, we want to stay within
I would,
the legal guidelines here. We don't want to get
I would,
into
I would suggest we run through the interviews and do the background check.
Yeah.
Okay,
And stay within that.
all right.
And so would I. I'm just saying that. Okay. All right. Well, then so we have 14 applicants. You want to pick a number 5? What was your number?
I think we should just cut it in half.
7?
7, I just threw 5 out there, It's
Hey,
7.
you know what? Why don't you guys just all bring your best choices? If it's 3, it's 3. If it's 7, it's 7.
Okay.
Okay,
I kind of like the number 7. But
Yeah, let's go
there
for it.
actually were some pretty good applications, I thought.
yeah.
But I don't know if it's 5. Okay, 7 or best. Okay. All right, very good. Well, with that, We have come to the end of our agenda, so
We got homework
Gentlemen?
tonight.
anything else for the good of the order?
No.
All right, well then we are adjourned.